I'm calling 8:10. Calling like 8:10. I'm in. When I told you guys at the meeting I didn't respond, I didn't respond. I wasn't responding. 8:10. We get to like you or he starts 3:10. Yeah. Are you in the tank, George? Are you getting in the tank?
Well, I gotta put the dusty because she put me in noon and I gotta call the legal counsel. Well, I'm getting in there. They can go there for a while. TPMI coming down.
Oh. I gotta say, I mean,
it's like the Ridley Park swim club, baby.
how many gallons does it take? Has it arrived? Did it get here yet?
Mom was supposed to come and fill it up.
Welcome to the June 12th school board meeting, and I call the meeting to order. Mr. Tracy, before we do the roll call, I will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Could you please stand? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, now, Mr. Tracy, roll call.
Mr. Bowden?
Here.
Ms. Carrillo?
Here.
Mr. Kramer?
Here.
Mr. Finnegan?
Here.
Dr. Garrett?
Here.
Mr. Kohler?
Present.
Mr. Cronenberg?
Here.
Dr. McVeigh? Here. Ms. Parry?
Here.
All present.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to the minutes. The recommended action is that the board approve the minutes of the regular meeting of May 8, 2023, the Curriculum and Policy Committee meetings of May 22, 2023, and the Communications and Finance Committee meetings of June 5th, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Perry.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Do I have a second?
Kohler second.
Thank you, Mr. Kohler. Any discussion or comments on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion passes. Mr. Tracy, is anybody here for public comment to address items on the agenda?
There's none.
Thank you very much. We have no Kennett High School Student Council report this evening, so I'm going to go right to Dr. Blakey's superintendent update.
Good evening, board members and community. Just want to give a quick update and a shout out to Dr. DeAngelis and the high school staff for an outstanding graduation. On Friday, we beat the rain, probably by about 10 or 15 minutes, so we were able to beat the rain before it came and got us. We had 331 graduates walk across the stage, and there were only 2 non-grads of the bunch. So congratulations for such an outstanding list, and we will get those other 2 across the stage at some point.
Can we give a round of applause?
Sure.
Great job.
And just to also brag about that graduating class, they earned over $9.2 million in scholarship dollars, as well as $289,500 in local and other scholarship dollars. So quite an accomplished class. Also moving on, tomorrow is our last teacher day. We will have an end of the year celebration where Dr. Barber, Mr. Cronenberg, and myself will be in the dunk tank along with some others, so people can get Mr. Cronenberg and Dr. Barber, get them nice and wet and just wear their arms out, so by the time I get in there.
What time is that?
That is from 12 to 3.
And by the way, I chickened out. I'm sorry, I can't go underwater, I freak out. So I totally chickened out. So thank you, Mr. Cronenberg.
Yes, and so also rounding out the report is our summer programming begins July 10th, and it will end on August the 2nd. So we'll have elementary, middle, and high school summer programming beginning on July 10th. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. So, end of the year and summer is here, and then we're back in school in no time. Okay, we move right on to facilities report. Mr. Woolhoff?
Good evening, Dr. Garrett, Dr. Blakey, members of the board. The facilities report for June 12th is as follows. Tomorrow evening, we will be attending a planning commission meeting at the Kennett Township to review the proposed new Greenwood Elementary School. New Garden design documents, construction documents are nearly 60% complete for the New Garden Elementary School. The geotechnical investigation has been completed at New Garden Elementary with favorable results regarding the soil composition. The Chester County Health Department is scheduled to come out in the next few weeks to work with DEP regarding the new proposed on-site sewage system for the New Garden Elementary School. I would like to take a moment to thank my staff, maintenance and custodial teams for their effort in making this year's graduation a success. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Any comments or questions? I do want to say the grounds looked amazing, and thank you. Please express our thanks to your staff. They did a terrific job.
Thank you.
And Mr. Woolhoff, my apologies for not including you in the superintendent's report because your staff did an outstanding job.
No worries. Thank you.
And I'm just going to take this opportunity to second all of that. The graduation was a wonderful ceremony. Congrats to everybody who planned and took part in it. It was really nice. So
Great.
Thank you, Drew.
Thank you.
Any other comments?
And Mr. Woolhoff, thank you for making the rain hold off. That's all right.
Mr. McGuire and I kept looking at our phones the whole time, so yes.
Thank you again, Mr.
Great.
Woolhoff.
Thank you.
I'm going to move to the TCHS CCIU report. The Chester County IU held its monthly board meeting on May 17th at the Child and Career Development Center. And Dr. Sue Matika is the principal there. And I have to say that I was absolutely amazed. She had two of her phys ed teachers, Dane Evans and Deb Phillips, talk about all the different physical education activities that they had for the children at the Child Development Center. And they actually designed these activities that were incredible to me. They were just, they had a way where young people who were in a wheelchair could throw darts at a board. They had ways in which the children could play basketball, even if they were in a wheelchair or handicapped in any way. And that's just two of, like, they presented 10 different activities. And I have to say that they actually came up with these designs based on the visit they made to Dr. Blakey's former school district, where a Colonial school district, William Penn, excuse me. No, Colonial, what am I doing? William Penn High School, Colonial School District, where they actually, special ed phys ed teachers were actually designing these activities for their students there. And I was just amazed by what the teachers had done. And they had students present that actually were participating in these different activities. And one of the students, it was just really fun to watch, was pitching a ball to Dr. Fiore, who struck out. I don't know if it was for real intentional, but he ended up striking out. The other thing that I think is important to acknowledge is that one of their teachers at the Child and Career Development Center, Ms. Heather Kilgore, is one of the finalists for the Pennsylvania Teacher of the Year Award, which I thought was just, again, amazing. They do incredible things there for the children that they serve throughout Chester County. And lastly, the next meeting will be held June 21st at 7:30 PM at the Educational Service Center. And if you want to read the minutes, they're online, the website at the IU or on our board docs, if you go on our website. Okay, we're going to move on. There is no Chester County School Authority report. The Legislative Council, Mr. Kramer was unable to attend, and he did provide meeting summaries if anyone wants to read those. So we'll move right to Curriculum Committee with Ms. Perry.
All right, good evening. The Curriculum Committee met on May 22nd at 6:30. Dr. Collins, the Director of Teaching and Learning, along with the rest of the administrative team, gave updates on progress towards the strategic goals related to the mission and vision of the district, and it was our third quarterly report on the balanced scorecard. Additional data related to those goals is going to be presented at the July board meeting. We also heard from Brenna Austin, supervisor of ELD. She shared information about Project Libertad that is going to support 40 of the KHS English learners through a Know Your Rights program and a newcomer support program. And finally, 2 textbooks were presented for review, AP Chemistry and AP Calculus, and the books are available in the district office for review. I'm not going to go into great detail on the quarterly report, but I just want to point to my report, which has a link to the minutes and it has a link to the video version. So there is a more in-depth analysis available of that meeting. The quarterly meetings are to see what actions in the plan are being executed in a timely manner, and determine what impact the actions are having, and also to identify needed adjustments to ensure the success in meeting the identified lag measure growth targets. So it's a really important meeting, and we'll get more data to look at in July. And then the Curriculum Committee is off for the summer. We won't be back until September.
A little bit of a break.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Any questions or comments on that report? All right, we'll move right on to Finance. Mr. Finnegan?
Thank you, Dr. Garrett. The Finance Committee met on Monday, June the 5th, and it was a short meeting. Henry Gariello of Dewey Engineering first presented the design, development, construction estimate for Greenwood Elementary School. The reasons for the higher costs than New Garden were attributed to extra site work, including the need to move and install additional modular classrooms and the need to have on-site septic due to Kennet Township not permitting public sewer at this time. The total estimated cost for Greenwood construction and demolition is $56,752,500. We were presented with 3 informational items: the parking lot agreement with Kennet Borough, an update on appraisals for the farm property at Kennet Middle School, and the IntelliPeer agreement, all previously discussed in public. Mr. Tracy presented the recommended 2023-24 general operating budget. The only modification from the board approved proposed final budget was the inclusion of $100,000 for high school athletic trainer services due to NovaCare no longer providing those services. Other budgetary considerations focused on adequate staffing levels and state subsidies. The committee supported the $98,616,445 budget, which called for a millage rate of 32.7275, or for you normal people, an average increase of 0.9%. So that was our last Finance Committee meeting for the school year, and we will be off until October.
My apologies. I have a cough drop. It just went the wrong way. Yeah. The committee report got me choked up. Any comments or questions on the Finance Committee report? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move right to policy.
May 22nd, we had a very efficient meeting. I do appreciate the fact that everybody reviews the policies before we come in, so therefore we can have an efficient meeting. This one lasted 4 minutes. It's going to take me longer to do this report than we actually made. I digress. We had 2 policies. The one was access to board policies, which was written in 2009 originally. Many of the methods by which we circulate the board policies were not available. It is a much shorter policy now, and it's been previously was labeled distribution. Now it's access to board policies, basically going to be posted electronically. There were no suggested changes to that, so we recommended that for approval by the board later this evening. Then there was policy 11. Policy 11 is the principles for governance and leadership, which we all adhere to, but now it's more appropriately written out as a policy. The only thing we did change was it was acknowledging that the superintendent, it said that as the role as the 10th member of the board, we clarified it to say a non-voting member of the board. Not to draw attention to some of the other school districts, but there are people within the Commonwealth and within the county that take issue with the fact that a superintendent is on the board because you're not elected, but that is what it is, and it's appointed by the Commonwealth and an officer of the Commonwealth. So all it just clarifies is non-voting member, to clarify for anybody that has issues with that. And as I mentioned, my report is taking longer than the actual meeting did. So here we are. Next meeting is September 25th at 6 p.m. Hopefully we'll see you all there.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on that? We are going to vote on those. We're going to miss you, Mr. Kohler. These meetings on policy, really going to miss you. You get to have 3 more policy meetings. Oh, boy. You should make them count. Absolutely. Okay, we're going to move to communications, Mr. Ballin.
Try it again. We met on Monday evening, June 5th, with all of the board members there for all or most of the hour. Dr. Blakey, Dr. Barber, and Dr. Collins reviewed our Pathways program, which is designed to offer career tracks for our students beginning, in some cases, as early as grade school. This provides alternatives to the traditional academic path from high school to college, an education model which apparently ill-serves both colleges and many of our graduates. It affords students and their families more choice and control over the direction and goals of their schooling, and provides opportunities for students in the upper grades to be mentored in their chosen fields to earn college credits or gain work experience. One of the pathways, the education track, recruits from our rich pool of bilingual students to put more teachers with dual language skills in our classrooms, addressing one of our particular needs. We discussed ways to better spread the word about Pathways from reaching out through students and to their families from the earliest grades, and also pairing with the new Kennett Library and Resource Center to offer programs to spread the word. And it was noted that we board members and staff from the district are the best ambassadors for these innovations, and we should talk it up at every opportunity.
Thank you. Any comments or questions on the communications? Okay, we are going to move right on to personnel. And
maybe not.
Okay, how about if I move on to the next item and then we'll come back to personnel. All right, we're going to move to the financial reports with Mr. Tracy. I'm sorry, what? No, that's okay. All right, are you trying to confuse something?
Let's just get back here for coffee.
Okay, let's move to financial reports. If it's okay, we'll come back to personnel.
Thank you, Dr. Garrett. We have the usual and customary monthly reports. This evening begins on page 2. In board docs, there's the 45-page comprehensive treasurer's report. We have the revenue summary report for the period ending May 31st, which details our revenues in the state prescribed format. At the end of the revenue section, we have our cash and investments of $35,775,467.75, and a Schedule A, which lists our fixed investments. On page 6, we have the expenditure summary report, which details our expenses in our budgetary format. On page 11, we have the food service profit and loss report. Our monthly net income was a little over 43,000 with a year-to-date net income of $279,397.85. On page 12, we have the capital funds project report, which details our current bond proceeds and our expenses associated with the Greenwood and New Garden construction projects. On page 13, we have our general operating bill list for the period of May 9th through today in the amount of $2,910,558.20, an additional 1.8 in payroll disbursements. We have our PNC procurement card activities listed at the end of the bill list, and Mr. Finnegan gets a detailed report of that. On page 32, we have a rather lengthy athletic fund bill list as we closed out the year in the amount of $8,144. On page 38, we have our internal service fund for our self-insured healthcare, that's medical, prescription, and dental, in the amount of $416,872.66. On page 40, we have the capital reserve bill list in the amount of $442,266.43, which represents improvements for our various facilities outlined in our 5-year plan. The majority of that expense was in relation to Legacy Field. And just a note, please ride past the Legacy Field. It's amazing, but the synthetic turf, which was non-existent almost 7 days ago, is almost completely down.
Looks great.
So they have done some
beautiful.
exceptional work. We are having a very favorable relationship with the contractor. So they're moving along really post haste. On page 42, we have our capital projects fund bill list. This is just associated with our building program for the elementary schools in the amount of $492,085.24. You're going to start seeing that ramped up as our architects are really getting into the detailed construction documents for New Garden and just beginning at Greenwood. On page 44, we have a rather small, actually it's a negative, in our real estate report, which shows a couple adds to our assessment base, but also appeals that the board actually saw previously added to those roles. And finally, for this evening, on page 41, we have an enrollment report for the month of May, which illustrates that we are up 9 students from the previous month, but 64 down from last year at this time. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. The recommended action is that the board approve the financial reports. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Mr. Finnegan, do I have a second?
Kohler, second.
Thank you, Mr. Kohler. Any questions for Mr. Tracy? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Okay, we're going to go back to personnel. We were worried about you, Dr. Barber.
I apologize for stepping out for a second. I was summoned to the hallway.
Okay.
Good evening, Dr. Garrett. Good evening, Dr. Blakey and members of the board. I have the honor of presenting the personnel section this evening. And as you see for your review and potential approval, we have our retirements and resignations. I would like to highlight Michael Anastas, Earth and Space teacher at Kennett High School, who is retiring after 15 years, as well as Ronnie Quinones. If you spend any time up in the our stadium, anytime in the weight room, in the annex, in the gymnasiums, you often see Ronnie constantly working and doing everything to keep the facilities in great shape. And we do want to highlight both of those retirements this evening. There are 2 requests for leave of absence that you'll see before you as well. In addition to a support staff position, changes of assignments, which I believe are below. And we have right there, great, thank you. And we have 1 administrative position that we are presenting this evening. So Ms. Cassandra Jones is with us, and Cassandra is on the docket to be approved as the Director of Pupil Services and Supports. And we would like to formally welcome Cassandra to our school district. Cassandra comes to us with some experience as a special education teacher, a special education supervisor, a special education consultant, and most currently she is on assignment as administrator in the curriculum department. And she's coming to us from the Coatesville Area School District, and she's here with us this evening. And if it's okay with the board, I'd like to also invite her up and to say a few words as well.
Good evening, everyone. I am extremely excited to be here and am looking forward to joining the Kennett team. I have to share with you my first in-person interview, which was my second interview. I left the interview feeling at home, which is interesting because I currently work in the district where I actually reside. But there was something about the people and the feeling I got when I walked through the door, and I just knew that I wanted to be here. And so I'm excited for the opportunity. I look forward to partnering with the board, the administration, the teachers, the support staff, families, and community members to serve the students of the Kennett Consolidated School District.
Well, thank you. Before we welcome you, we're going to make you official.
Okay.
Dr. Barber, anything else before we go?
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Dr. No, you can stay until the vote happens.
You can stay up.
Okay. Don't get off that easy. Just some additional items for your review and consideration. We have on the ballot summer school staff, as well as some supplemental contracts which are administered in accordance with the collective bargaining agreement. One of which I'll highlight before you is our nursing team leader is proposed to be Susan Stuber. Has huge shoes to fill, as Ms. Diane Shannon is a few days away from officially retiring, but Sue's going to do a great job. And that's the end of the personnel section.
Great. Okay. Recommended action that the board approve the following personnel changes as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. A second?
Second, Carrillo.
Thank you, Ms. Carlo. So with that, any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. Now we can welcome you to Kennett. Okay, we're going to move to the student trip. Mr. Waite.
Thank you, everyone, for making time for me tonight to pitch my next Model UN trip. So once a year, we like to do the overnight. We did New York last year. COVID cost us 2 years. My seniors that just graduated, I took up to New York freshman year. I usually only do that once every 4 years because it's so much work. We had an election for all our new officers before the end of the year, and previous officers going out, new officers both gave their thumbs up for William and Mary. So we're proposing to go in November. I wanted to get on to this board meeting, which was, again, I'm very appreciative because I only requested it like last week, I think. But I wanted to make sure that I could get approval for it because it's so early in the year. Normally, they would be in the second semester. Total cost per student would be about $350, $400, and of course, that's projection. We're hoping to get that lower for using some fundraising in September. So we're going to do fundraising very quickly and try to give our members opportunities to reduce that cost. The biggest cost is really the transportation. The bus is, almost $5,000. So my projected cost for that's based on like 30, 40 students going. So I might have to adjust that. But we do have fundraising money already that might be able to help subsidize that. I also have the KEA grant from last year. It's a 3-year. So I'll have $1,200 this year. It's a step down. So I have $1,200 to help reduce the delegate fees, which can be kind of exorbitant. And the fundraising money in our account should cover the expenses for the chaperones, myself and my wife. So.
Great. All right, I'm going to put the motion on the floor and then see if people have questions.
Okay,
for
great.
you. The recommended action that the following student trip be approved in accordance with policy 121, field trips. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Barry.
Thank you, Ms. Barry.
Second.
Mr. Cronenberg. All right, the floor is open for any questions from Mr. Wade.
I certainly appreciate your moving forward with this trip and appreciate your being here now. And I think it's critically important that our students engage in the practice of democracy and government. And so very much in support. I hope, as I'm sure you always do, that you exercise some sensitivity with those students who have difficulty with financial matters. I've noticed that sometimes there's an email that comes out and it sort of says, as an afterthought, come contact us. I think it's important in our community to ensure that we make sure that people are not put on the spot, and I think that's always worth saying. But again, a lot of support for this trip, and thank you for all you do. I know it's a labor of love, and thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Thank you, you too.
Thank you. We're not going to do a redo on that. So, all right, well, let's move to summer substitute rate with Dr. Barber.
Thank you again, Dr. Garrett. This action item is really related to what we're seeing in the industry right now, and we are requesting approval to increase the summer staff substitute pay rate by $15 an hour.
Okay. So the recommended action, that the board approve an increase to the hourly pay rate for summer staff substitutes at $15 per hour effective July 1st, 2023. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cronenberg. Second?
Second, Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Any comments?
Is that an increase of 15? So what is the total? Just looking at the way it's written.
Mr. Tracy?
No, we are establishing the rate from $13 to $15 an hour.
Okay.
Predominantly, these are summer helpers, many of our current high schoolers and some after. We have been very unsuccessful at the $13 an hour rate. It also will extend to Mr. Wolhoff's custodial substitute staff.
Go ahead.
Even at 15, I think it's still very low for this area. Can we discuss higher, or this is not the time to do so, or it's already set 15?
That would be a decision, for the board. We're making a recommendation to the board at $15 an hour, which the administration felt was competitive and consistent with the increase. I know Mr. Tracy wants to add.
Thank you, Dr. Barber. We have aligned the $15 an hour with both our CRESS contract as well as some other contracts that we have for outside agencies. So this would put us at a level playing field for entry-level positions. These are not full-time positions. These are hourly part-time.
Okay. Good. Any other questions? All right, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Dr. Barber, you might as well stay up there.
Thank you again. I believe that Mr. Kohler so eloquently in his 3-minute and 37-second synopsis of our 4-minute meeting did a super job with his segue into this policy. This is the PSBA recommended policy before the board relating to access to our school board policies. Be happy to answer any questions, but this is really just pertaining to making sure that our policies are accessible by the public.
All right, I'll go to the recommended action, that the board approve the above section of board policy and adopt it as policy, rescinding and declaring void all previous policies or portions thereof to the extent that they are inconsistent with this policy. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. A second?
Kohler, and second, Kramer. Just
Thank-
for pennies.
You're the second.
Yes.
I know Cole's the first. Thank you. I know you're the first. He's the second. Thank you. All right, who's on first? So, all right. Any questions on this policy? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. The next one, Dr. Barber.
Okay, we're talking about principles for governance and leadership. This is 011, and as Mr. Kohler footnoted, the only change recommended in addition to the format has to do with looking at the superintendent as a non-voting member of the board, as opposed to the language which said 10th member of the board, non-voting.
Okay, the recommended action, that the board approve the above section of board policy, adopted as policy, rescinding and declaring void all previous policies or portions thereof to the extent that they are inconsistent with this policy. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Second?
Cronenberg.
Thank you, Mr. Cronenberg. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Okay, settlement agreements, Dr. Barber.
Okay, this evening we have two settlement agreements that are before the board. Per those settlement agreements, I am unable to answer any questions or provide any specifics.
Right. So I'll put the recommended action on the floor, that the board approve the confidential settlement agreements with the parents of students. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Kramer.
Mr. Kramer, thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cronenberg. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes.
Thank you. I'll turn it over to Dr. Collins.
Dr. Collins, school plans.
Good evening, Dr. Garrett, Dr. Blakey, and school board directors. Tonight for your review are Kennett Middle's and Kennett High School's ATSI school plans, which are additional targeted school of improvement plans. This plan was required by the Pennsylvania Department of Education, and it's evidence of the hard work and many meetings by both schools to monitor the academic progress of our students. The plans are posted for your review, and that is what you are, I'm asking for your, I can't even speak tonight, I'm sorry. It's the end, it's been a long day. So we're just asking for your review and approval of the school plan so we can have those submitted to the state.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Collins. The recommended action is that the board approve the school plans for Kennett High School and Kennett Middle School for the 2023-2024 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Finnegan.
Thank you, Mr. Finnegan. Second?
Second, Perry.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Any questions on the school plans?
I appreciate the depth and complexity of these documents, and I appreciate the fact that many staff members have put a lot of time into these. I hope that as a district and as a faculty and as professional public educators, everyone will see this as an opportunity rather than as a kind of a slap. I think it's critically important to see that the places where we are looking for improvement are not about blame or looking backwards, they are about looking forwards. And I think this document reflects that. I'd also like to note there's obviously an emphasis on some standardized tests and things like that. I certainly, speaking for myself, those standardized tests are not nearly as important as the work that's going forward in terms of these professional public educators sitting in a room together, thinking about where we can move forward. And I appreciate all that work and hope that this leads to a sense of mission and a sense that we're moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Any other comments?
Dr. Collins, what happens to PDE once they get these? They just take them? Do they do any follow-up? Is it on us to monitor?
It's a good question, yes. So the state requires the plans to be submitted, and we also have a CCIU partnership, and they have already signed off on the plan and reviewed it. So that's that second and third layer. And then once Pennsylvania Department of Education reviews them, they will then say they're approved or that we have some revisions to make. So that's the next step. You'll see at the July board meeting, the elementary schools will come on. You'll also have plans to review there as a part of our consolidated grant. So that's the next step. We'll wait to hear back from the state. And then if there's any revisions to be made, it is on us to monitor the implementation and the targets quarterly. So the schools will have quarterly meetings with their stakeholder groups.
I guess it's we're heading for that. I mean, we're approving the submission of the reports.
Yes.
And if the PDE changes them, do we have to reapprove them?
No. If PDE, we go through the same thing with our elementary schools. If they ask us to make changes, this is only a review. You're going to be signing that you reviewed the documents. So any updates to that, I'll keep you in the loop of any changes that are being made that are usually major changes to goals or objectives within the plan.
Okay, great, thanks.
Any other questions?
Not a question, just a comment. Thank you. It's a pretty detailed report, pretty good game plan. It looks tedious and time consuming, the effort that was put into it. But thank you and to the rest of the staff to put it together.
So I want to take a moment and thank Dr. Moore and Dr. DeAngelis and both the Kennett Middle and Kennett High School teams. This was a labor of love over many meetings and many days and times of really putting its evidence of the work they're going to do moving forward, as well as drafting their balanced scorecard with us. So they put a lot of work into this, so I want to say thank you. This is evidence of the work that their schools and their teams are committed to.
Great, thank you. Thank you for all the comments and questions. Any other? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, the motion passes.
Thank you. So
You going to do the iReady?
yes.
Okay.
Dr. Miller is going to join me. And I want to acknowledge in the audience, we have Dr. Tamargo, we have Marie Lawson and Kathy Drago. Am I missing anyone else who was a part of our teacher community, math committee? So good evening, Dr. Garrett, Dr. Blakey, and school board of directors and Kennett school community. This evening, we are asking for your approval of the iReady mathematics program for kindergarten through 8th grade. Last year, the math committee started the process to review our current math program, and this year determined that we needed to review other programs to meet the needs of our diverse student population. In April of 2023, at the district's curriculum committee meeting, we shared our progress with the math pilot of iReady. From May 1st to date, we have had the materials for public review at our district office, which was also posted on our district's website. We are asking for your approval to adopt the iReady as the district's K-8 mathematics curriculum starting with the 23-24 school year. Thank you for your time, and we stand ready to ask any questions you may have after the motion is made.
Thank you, Dr. Collins. The recommended action is that the board approve the contract with iReady for mathematics curriculum. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Perry.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Do I have a second?
Second, Finnegan.
Thank you, Mr. Finnegan. Any questions the board might have or comments?
Yep, sorry, it's me again. When we reviewed this, I think it was in curriculum, there were a number of shortcomings that were to be done. I mean, how are they coming along with that punch list of filling in the gaps?
Mm-hmm. So the curriculum is fully fleshed out, and we have access to it online. Everything is fully aligned, and we will have access to all of our materials. As soon as we seek board approval this evening, we will move forward with in July with the order of the program.
Okay, so you're happy with their follow-up on answering?
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Any other comments or questions?
Thank you, and thanks to the team for the work on this. Appreciate it.
And thanks for the team members that are here this evening to support the curriculum. Thank you.
I'd note I have heard a buzz about this program, and I think it's terrific that we're putting in place a comprehensive effort here to really move forward. I'm myself am pleased with the program, and I'm pleased with and really appreciative of all the work that's been done on it. So looking forward to watching this develop. Thank you.
From what I hear from the kindergarten teachers, the children are developing a real love for mathematics. So I hope that's going to carry all the way through to hit the high school.
Yes,
That'd
and
be
our
really great.
2 kindergarten teachers are dressed the iReady part this evening. So if anyone can check out Kathy Drago's shoes, and you can't miss the shoes. So there is definite excitement about the program, so.
It's great. Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Wonderful.
Thank you.
Ms. Jester. The calculus textbook.
Good evening, Dr. Blakey, Dr. Gert, and members of the school board. In accordance with School Board Policy 108, adoption of textbooks, I am presenting 2 textbooks for consideration tonight, both for advanced placement courses at our high school. The first is being recommended for board approval for our high school AP calculus courses. The text Calculus for the AP course by Sullivan and Miranda was selected by Mr. Ron Phillips and 2 other members of the math department, Dr. Tamargo and Mr. Ron Schultz. It was chosen after the 3 staff members vetted several other texts and decided this was the best match for our students' needs. Their textbook selection form and the text itself have been available for review since May 23rd at the district office. I present it now for your consideration and stand ready to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you very much. The recommended action that the board approve the AP calculus textbook. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Parry.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Second?
Second, Kohler. I noticed nobody wants to approve the math textbook.
Thank you, Mr. Kohler. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Okay,
Thank you.
chemistry.
All right, the second textbook being recommended for board approval for a high school advanced placement chemistry course. The text, Chemistry AP Edition by Zumdal and others, was selected by Ms. Tony Ann Buselli and two other members of the science department, Mrs. Peggy Hughes and Mr. Dan Fulmar. It was chosen after the three staff members vetted several other texts and decided that this too was the best match for their students' needs. Their textbook selection form and the text itself have also been at the district office since May 23rd. I present it now for your consideration and stand ready to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. The recommended action that the board approve the AP Chemistry textbook. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Parry.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Second?
Second.
Mr. Cronenberg. Any questions?
In both instances, I do want to express appreciation for the educators who are doing this work.
Thank you. Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Blakey, adoption of fees. I'm losing my voice.
Can you say that one more time? In accordance with Board Policy 904, annually we must present a prepared list of fee schedules for school events for the board to adopt. So what is before you are our fee schedules for high school and middle school activities for next school year, 23-24 school year.
Thank you, Dr. Blakey. The recommended action is that the board adopt the schedule of fees for school events to be held during the 2023-2024 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Mr. Cronenberg, second.
Second.
Mr. Finnegan. Any questions for Dr. Blakey? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Mr. McGuire, telecommunications service agreement.
Good evening, Dr. Garrett, Dr. Blakey, members of the board. Earlier this year, the administration secured the professional services of Core VTS to support the district in transitioning from our current Cisco on-prem Cisco WebEx cloud-based environment to our current phone system. The next step in the process is to upgrade to a more efficient, cost-effective telecommunication solution, providing us with a future-proof solution. As we worked with our project manager and our Core BTS and Cisco partners, we compared several options and found IntelliPeer to be the best solution for our district, allowing us to enhance productivity, improve connectivity, and reduce overall costs.
Thank you, Mr. McGuire. The recommended action that the board approve IntelliPeer Cloud Communication LLC service agreement for a 36-month term at $25,272 per year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Finnegan. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cronenberg. Any questions or comments from Mr. McGuire?
Nothing is future-proof. Nothing. How did I know you'd pick out that one out of the phrase?
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Mr. Tracy, 2023 through 2028 Capital Reserve 5-year plan.
Thank you, Dr. Garrett. For this evening, we have multiple motions that relate to multiple various funds that the district actually administrates. Nothing should be a surprise, as most of this information was covered over many months at Finance Committee meetings. The first item is the Capital Reserve Fund, and the accompanying 5-year capital improvement plan was established more than a decade ago to help identify and strategically fund large-scale capital investments in facilities, technology, and food service equipment. Mr. Woolhoff presented our long-term plan for facilities at the February 6th meeting. Dan McGuire presented the technology plan at the March 6th Finance Committee meeting. With the exception of the year one plan, which is scheduled to be approved this evening, The rest of the years are really a fluid document that address district's needs and will be updated and brought to the board in subsequent years. For this year, the larger projects include Legacy Field turf replacement, which is already bid and under construction, the high school upper parking lot and sidewalk remediation, the gymnasium spectator bleachers, the rooftop HVAC units at Mary D. Lang, and some student laptop replenishment. All the improvements this year are estimated at $3.3 million. The new elementary schools, just for your information, are not included in the capital reserve. This is separate large-scale projects. So that is all I have for the capital reserve. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
All right, the recommended action is that the board approve the 5-year capital reserve plan. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Mr. Finnegan, second.
Second, Kohler.
Thank you, Mr. Kohler. Any questions from Mr. Tracy on this particular motion?
I wanted to make the point that a capital reserve fund and a healthy capital reserve fund is a key indicator, something that as board members we should be watching to see that this is happening. And I think this is a robust fund and a good plan. And I express appreciation to all who have over the years made sure that they put us in this position rather than in a scrambling position. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Tracy on this?
Just a comment. I mean, since Mr. McGuire already went back to his station back there, but over the years, we've been adding in funding to the general operating budget for things that used to come out of the reserves. So the numbers that are here to be pulled out of the reserves are much smaller than it used to be. So now Mr. McGuire's staff is managing to have things in our regular budget, making it more regular and fluid, not big surprises. So that's been a multi-year process, which is paying out now.
Thank you for that comment. Any others? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Mr. Tracy, we're just going to move right through the rest of the items with you.
Right through all the budget approvals.
I'm going to let you just carry on here.
Excellent. The next one is the Internal Service Fund. The Internal Fund was established years ago when the district moved from self-insured healthcare products for medical, prescription, and dental. It acts as sort of a clearinghouse for all of our healthcare claims. So the claims that we experience week to week for our medical are not actually burdened in the general operating budget. They're actually charged against the Internal Service Fund, and it derives its revenues by the budget allocation that we make in our general operating budget each year for those various healthcare products. So when you approve tonight's general operating budget, or I hope you approve tonight's general operating budget, that'll set the revenue source for our Internal Service Fund for next year. The claims certainly then are funneled as we have experienced from week to week in each one of those medical products. It's proven very successful. This was implemented, as I mentioned, probably a little less than a decade ago, and has been really a great resource for us to kind of stabilize the fluctuations in our general operating budget. The budget is proposed for next year based on some projections that have been formulated by the Ruschini Group, $7,815,934.
Thank you, Mr. Tracy. The recommended action, that the board approve the internal service budget in the amount of $7,815,934. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Finnegan. Second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Cronenberg. Any questions for Mr. Tracy on this? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Next, food service budget.
Thank you, Dr. Garrett. By law, the food service budget must operate financially independent from the general operating budget as an enterprise fund. The revenues are derived solely from the food service operation. That's the charges passed to the students, as well as subsidies accompanying the USDA National School Breakfast and Lunch Program. The budget presented this evening for approval represents the agreement with Chartwells and the district's previous approval for that budget with the PDE Department of Food and Nutrition. The budget calls for $1.9 million and an operating loss of $38,000. Once again, we had projected an operating loss in this current year. However, with the free breakfast program, that has provided us with a significant windfall of revenues this year. So I know there's a lot of debate right now whether or not that will be continued for next year. If it does not, we're expecting a $38,000 loss. If it is approved, free breakfast, I would expect to see a gain of about, a couple $100,000. It's that valuable to the district.
Okay, recommended action, that the board approve the 2023-24 food service budget in the amount of $1,937,631. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cronenberg. Second?
Second.
Second, Ms. Perry. Okay. You gotta say something, just not the lights, so I can make sure. I saw some lights go off there. All right, any questions on this from Mr. Tracy? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Okay. The district operating budget, Mr. Tracy.
Thank you, Dr. Garrett. And the largest of the budgets for this evening, the administration is recommending the general operating budget totaling $98,616,455, or an increase of 4.57% over the prior year. It would require a millage increase of 0.9%, significantly below the 4.1% Act 1 index. It would set our millage at 32.7275. Based on the proposed increase, the average residential tax increase is approximately $53. Today's proposed budget is the culmination of 8 Finance Committee meetings that covered all components of the budget, including salaries, benefits, contracted professional services, utilities, building allocations, balanced scorecard initiatives, new staffing and programming, curriculum, technology, transportation, and we had many debates over our debt service allocation. This is all in addition to inflationary indexes for salary and benefits. It also includes 50% of the proposed governor's budget. That leaves over $400,000 on the table if the governor's budget is approved as is. It includes an instructional director, 3 ELD positions, 1 math position, $150,000 increase to support driver wages, $100,000 was the last ad for additional trainer services at the high school, and a $50,000 allocation for safety and security enhancements. That concludes this presentation, but certainly if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to address them.
Thank you. The recommended action, that the board approve the 2023-24 Kennet Consolidated School District operating budget in the amount of $98,616,455 and submission of Form 2028 to the Pennsylvania Department of Education. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you. Mr. Finnegan, a second?
Second.
Mr. Cronenberg, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Tracy on this motion?
Just want to say thank you. I had an opportunity, Ms. Schaefer sent me a more detailed version of the budget, so I had an opportunity to review it before we came here. It's quite obvious the amount of work that went into putting this together. Not being a numbers person, I can tell you with great admiration, I'm pleased with what you put together. I really do appreciate the hard work that you and your staff put into all this.
Thank you, Mr. Kohler. Any other comments or questions for Mr. Tracy?
Just a high-level comment. I mean, you've heard the number of positions that were added, the safety initiatives, the bond issues for the elementary schools. I mean, and then with the increase in the PESERS rate, I mean, to have all that go in there and still come in at a 0.9 when it could have been a 4.7. It's the whole, the board and the finance department and administration, everyone should be commended for once again keeping us at a very low tax increase and trying to keep as low of a burden on the taxpayers as we can.
Thank you.
I'd like to also second the comments, thanking the business office and the administration team and indeed the entire staff of KCSD. The work that goes into our annual budget is a lot of work requiring cooperation from a lot of people. And I'm proud of the focus that we have on programs as well as the focus we have on our teaching staff. I'm proud to support the budget.
Thank you for all those comments, and I'm sure it was a matter of all give and take and a lot of compromising to get to where we are. So Kudos to all of you on that. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Tax resolutions, Mr. Tracy.
Dr. Garrett, I believe you can read the tax resolutions as presented. These are in support of the general operating budget that was just approved.
Okay, the recommended action, and could you, this I think is important. Can you read each one for us? They're not that long. For the earned income tax, real estate, et cetera. Can you read those for us with the motion? Put your glasses on.
Make me pull up my readers. Yes, we have the earned income tax, a tax of 1% levied on salaries and wages for the fiscal year of 23-24. Just remember that we share the earned income tax with the municipalities, so we really get 0.5%. We get the 0.5%, except for in East Marlboro Township, where we would receive the full 1%. The real estate tax rate, as mentioned in our previous motion, would be set at 32.7275 mils, be levied on real estate taxes for the 23-24 year. Once again, we probably could have a finance committee meeting that just really transitions or explains how mills actually equate to a tax, because I think many individuals get your tax bill, you look at that numerical amount that is due without really looking at your assessment and applying the millage rate to it. Act 554, the tax of 32.7275 mils be levied on interim real estate taxes for the fiscal year of 23-24. And finally, our 511 tax of 0.5% levied on real estate transfers for the fiscal year of 23-24.
Thank you for reading those. I thought those were important to review. The recommended action is that the board adopt the following tax resolutions to support the 2023-24 operating budget. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Finnegan. A second?
Second, Kohler.
Thank you, Mr. Kohler. Any questions from Mr. Tracy on this motion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Homestead Farmstead exclusion resolution, and you don't have to read the whole thing.
I appreciate that, Dr. Garrett. I would like to point out, this goes way back to the actual implementation of Act 1. There was a component that had to do with the state enacting gaming, and certainly that has grown over the years. And Michael Finnegan has pointed out the fact that the state has really added on to the gaming receipts, although the district share of that comes back was really only part one. It has grown very little over the course since 2000, probably 8-9, we started receiving money. The way that it works is we get an allocation from the state. It comes in as a revenue source. In this case, it is 1.6 in gaming, and then we get another 155,000 for sterling credit, the Philadelphia wage tax. So we do get some of that back for residents that reside in Kennett, pay the Philadelphia wage tax. We don't get our earned income tax then. So the state gives us a portion back. So we get 115,000. You take those two components, that $1.7 million, and the district has to disperse all 1.7 million back out to residential taxpayers. So not commercial, not industrial taxpayers, or residential taxpayers benefit from this act in the way of a homestead, farmstead. To qualify as a homestead, it must be your primary domicile. You have to reside there. So individuals who reside in Florida, maintain a house here, they do not qualify. You must reside in house. Rental properties, which may appear to be a residential house, don't qualify. You need to occupy. The district does not certify a homestead farmstead. That happens through the county. Many years ago when this went into place, the county decided that once you applied for your homestead and or farmstead, that would remain with that property until said property is sold. So for those individuals that are listening or watching, you apply once, you receive your homestead, it stays with you until that property is transferred. At the time it transfers, the new owners then have to submit. We have approximately 8,250 properties that qualify for residential properties. You'll see in this motion that we have 6,075 of those that qualify as a primary domicile. So that's what we have. Not all 8,250, 6,075 qualify. There's an additional 25 that qualify as a farmstead. So all we're doing is taking that 7.5 or 1.7 million, and dividing it by that total of 6,000 plus to come up with a credit that goes back on your tax bill. So we issue your tax bill, we reduce it by that $293, and it should all work out perfectly. It doesn't always. We end up with a little change from those properties that sell over the course of the year. We have individuals that move to Florida and return the funds because the Florida homestead is bigger. What we do is we credit that then to the pool for the next year. So if we have $1,000 sitting remaining after we disperse it all, next year we add that to that 1.7 million. So kind of a long story longer. That's what this resolution is saying. We do receive this money in 2 installments, and we will issue it back out to the taxpayers July 1st with our tax bills.
Thank you for that summary, because that's quite a lot to absorb. I'm going to put the action on the floor that the board adopt the homestead farmstead exclusion resolution. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Finnegan. A second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Carrillo.
And I have
Any discussion?
just want to know, how do we let families, I mean, if anyone is watching us right now, how do they apply for this?
That's a great question.
incentive?
There's a window of opportunity. It goes from January 1st to, I believe it's March 1st. It might be a little bit later. See Ms. Schaefer over there. We actually send notifications out. So we get a list of all residential properties that are not currently taking advantage of the homestead or farmstead, and we do a mailing. That is coordinated through the Chester County Intermediate Unit. All districts in the county participate, so we do sort of a coordinated effort to save money on postage and the formation of the letter. But all of the homeowners that do not currently qualify receive a letter stating that it is available, and we'll see a little influx. Typically, it's new owners that have purchased it, not aware that this credit is available.
Any other questions or comments on this motion?
So essentially, we're the middleman for the state. The state takes their gambling money and wants to give it to the residents, and we have to be the entity that divvies it up for them.
Yes, it actually came out as a tax reduction act, and there was specific language that needed to be included on the tax bills, giving credit to the governor and the state legislature.
And since you mentioned me by name, I know that the deal with the devil back when Act 1 came about was that, hey, you'll limit your tax increases to the number we come up with every year, but we will give you a percentage of the gambling receipts, which at that time was slots. They've since added table games, sports, online. I mean, you can't turn on the television anymore without something in Pennsylvania telling you, pick up your phone and gamble. But yet those revenues have never come down to the school district. So people are always saying, why is the burden of taxes on the homeowner when it used to be the state, years ago was close to 50%. I mean, if you want to lobby your representatives, I mean, this is a place where if they just included all the gambling revenues and funneled that back into the homeowners, that would greatly reduce the burden of the homeowner and the people who are fixed incomes and no kids in the district. It's a great way to come back. That's not an additional tax. It's just honoring the original deal, but expanding it into the different areas that they've reached out to. So there's my soapbox.
Good points. Any other comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Mr. Tracy, budget transfers.
Thank you, Dr. Garrett. This is the usual and customary request from the administration to allow us to make budgetary transfers throughout the summer months. Most of them will be to align us with the closing of the year and any adjustments required by the auditors.
Something we do every year. So the recommended action is that the board grant authorization for the administration to make transfers in the 2022-23 general fund budget after June 30, 2023, with subsequent ratification by the board. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
So moved. Mr. Kramer, second.
Second.
Second,
Finnegan.
Mr. Finnegan. Any questions on that for Mr. Tracy? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Cafeteria prices.
This motion allows us to set the cafeteria prices for next year. There are no increases in student lunch prices. There is a slight increase for the adult lunch price. That is a requirement for USDA. So that went from $4 to $5. We have very few faculty members that do participate in our lunch program, but there is an equation that we must walk through to give it equity to the student lunches.
Thank you. Recommended action that the board, sorry, I'm listening to. Recommended action that the board approve a breakfast price of $1.50 for all students, a lunch price of $3 for elementary students, $3.25 for middle and high school students, and $5 for adults for the 2023-24 school year. Do I have a motion?
So moved, Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Kramer. Second?
Second, Perry.
Thank you, Ms. Perry. Any questions for Mr. Tracy on this motion?
Still a pretty good deal.
It's great that we're not increasing prices for our students. Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Free and reduced price lunch, Mr. Tracy.
Thank you, Dr. Garrett. Once again, we're dealing with food service operations. This is a requirement of USDA. We do accept their eligibility guidelines for qualifying families and students as free and/or reduced.
The recommended action is that the board approve district participation in the Pennsylvania Income Guidelines for determining the eligibility of children for free and reduced price lunches and for free milk. Do I have a motion?
So move, Kohler.
Thank you, Mr. Kohler. Second, Mr. Cronenberg. Questions from Mr. Tracy on this or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. The next item is the amount of treasurer's bond. And this is something we do have to do annually. And the recommended action is that the Kennet Consolidated School District treasurer's bond be set in the amount of $50,000 for the 2023-24 fiscal year. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Finnegan. A second?
Second.
Mr. Cronenberg. Any questions on that item, which of course Mr. Tracy would answer? Okay, hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. The election of treasurer, that's done on an annual basis. And the recommended action is that Michael H. Finnegan be elected treasurer of the Kennet Consolidated School District for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023, and ending June 30, 2024. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Cronenberg. Do I have a second?
Second, Kohler.
Thank you, Mr. Kohler. Any questions on this?
Mr. Finnegan, last chance.
Right. All right. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? The motion passes. Any public comments that are not on the agenda, Mr. Tracy?
There are none.
Okay, thank you very much. Calendar of events. We have a very light calendar until we start again. Monday, June 19th, the district is closed for Juneteenth. And then our next board meeting is July 10th at 7 p.m. and we start our committee meetings again in September. On any further business, I do want, before anyone else wants to add anything, I want to take this opportunity for our administrators that are sitting before us. I really want to thank each of you for your dedication and service to our children this year. And it's probably been a much better year this year than in the past, I would hope. Still a transition for many of our children. And I believe next year will be even a better year as our children have gotten readjusted to being in school every single day. So thank you for your service. It's been an amazing year. I've had an opportunity to visit your schools, not enough, but I've had that opportunity to visit classrooms. And every time I do that, I find how extraordinary our teaching staff is and the work that they do for our students. And also certainly to our facilities and our district staff for all the support you provide our schools. Thank you for all of that. It's been a terrific year. Any other comments, any other board member?
Dr.
Any
Garrett,
further business?
congratulations on the completion of the year. Thank you all for being here all year, but especially tonight. You know, it's, the school year's over and we all don't necessarily want to be sitting here tonight, and you're all still here, and we have a few visitors that are here as well. So thank you for being here tonight, and thank you to those who are watching at home for all your efforts this year. Thank you, Dr. Garrett.
Absolutely. Thank you for your comment too. Anyone else?
In the wake of approving Ms. Schaefer's final budget on behalf of our school district, I want to thank her for her hard work and effort on behalf of the school district. You're on your own, Mark.
We do have her for one more meeting.
She has to be here in July. So we have, so we have an opportunity to give her a send-off in July. Thank goodness. Anyone else with any other comments? All right, hearing none. Oh, get that arm up. Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. All right, now I'm curious to see what this is. Yeah. Let's see what.